Good evening, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about how important it is to have a men's and or a women's group at your church. So what is a men's group? What is a women's group? We've had it since 2015. It is now 2019. My parish has had a men's group. We have something called an Acts retreat. I'm actually going to be going on my first one this upcoming year. And an Acts retreat is it's just a men's retreat getting together for a weekend. And it's a lot of testimony, from what I understand. It has people grow deeper in their relationships with each other. And it was such a deep connection to when our church went on its first Acts retreat, the men who went on that first Acts retreat, that they wanted to keep it going. So what they did was they started a men's group. So what it is, it's an invitation to all the men of the parish to meet together about 3 times a month. That's what our church does. We meet every other week at 6 a.m. Yes, you heard that right, 6 a.m. at a local diner in town. And we get together, we have breakfast together, and what our group does is, while we're sitting together, each of us gets a turn to speak. And we're able to tell everybody what's on our hearts. What's happening in your life? Do you need prayers for anything? Do you need help with anything? What are some victories that you've had? These are the things that I've discussed with everybody. And it's awesome because our group has a nice wide variety of age. We have people that have ranged from 20 to 21 years old up to past retirement age. And it's good because the people of retirement age are able to give the younger folk some wisdom from lives. Like if somebody who's in their 20s loses their job or they're trying to find a job, somebody who's retired may be able to give them a little bit of wisdom of what they went through in their lives and how they got through it. And right now I'm at the point of my life of, I have 3 and 4-year-old boys at home here, and there are some major challenges with them. And the men in the group who have gone through children already and have their kids moved out and married and everything, they get to tell the stories of what they did in the same situations. And it's so wonderful because when you're meeting with people from your church, you're already theologically like-minded for the most part, I would say. You're able to discuss the faith without fear of offending anybody. And you may learn things when someone else speaks that you didn't know about the faith before. I started talking about the rosary when I joined my men's group, and it was able to get other people to start praying the rosary too because they like my testimony. If you go on to my conversion story, I went through my conversion story basically. I have a video on that up on my channel here. Some people were very touched by it, and they started listening to what I had to say and wanted to know more, especially when it came to praying rosary and Chaplet of Divine Mercy. So it's important because I got to know a few men from our men's group. There's a guy younger than I am, and has a 1-year-old son now. Due to getting to know him in that men's group during the breakfasts, I invited him over, with him and his wife over, to my house after Mass one day to have lunch with them. And him and his wife came over to have lunch with us, and my wife started really getting along with his wife, and we all just got along together. And that friendship developed so strong that they asked my wife and I to be godparents of their child. Without a men's group, he's not my godson right now. And I've gotten to see what type of Jesus freaks these 2 young people are, because they give us strength and they give us hope with what's happening for the future of the church. People who aren't leaving, they're not leaving Jesus because of Judas. They're staying strong in their faith, and they are not going to leave the Eucharist. And they come over And we can have 3-hour-long discussions theologically while our children play together. And for women, do the same thing. Make a women's group at your parish. Do the same thing. I mean, you could do... I mean, our priest told us if you're going to do a women's group, don't meet at 6 a.m. It's never going to happen. Try to do an evening thing. And it doesn't have to be a diner. You could meet in your church hall if it's available, at a Dunkin' Donuts, at a McDonald's. Just sit together. Have the camaraderie together. The whole point of everything was, by the book of Proverbs, was iron sharpens iron. And when you're together with these like-minded people, you can sharpen the iron, and you always go home feeling happy that you went. Sometimes, a 6 a.m. get-up comes. I have to be at a diner at 6 a.m. to talk with these guys. Oh man, I've got to sacrifice an hour and a half of sleep. This just isn't going to happen. I just don't want to do this. And then you say, yep, I'm going to go. And then that alarm goes off, and you're just not ready to get up, but you drag out and you go, and you never, ever, ever regret missing. It is so much better to go and talk with these like-minded men than it is to get an extra hour and a half of sleep. And then we meet on Sunday evenings once a month. Sometimes there's a video program that we watch, and our parish priest is with us, and he asks us questions and guides us through it. So, one of the stories I want to bring up of our men's group, the first time I went to confession. After my second son was born, it was a very, very stressful time in my life. And you'll hear in my conversion story of how I was a pornography addict. And I haven't been able to fight that very, very strong. I've been praying a rosary every day since September 19th, 2011. And that continued into the stressful time after my second son was born. It was just basically I was at a point in my life where I was not sleeping, very, very stressed out, and what are you going to do? You're going to turn to the ways of the world. There are going to be struggles for you. And it just felt like I was going to confession way too frequently. And I was having too many fights with my wife. And I went to when I was in confession, the priest told me, we have a men's group, and I think what you're telling me would be great to talk about with them because they're like-minded. And I said, you know what? Yeah, let me give it a try. It's 6 a.m. I don't want to do that, but let's just give it a try. And I went, and I poured out my entire heart there because I was having such trouble. And a lot of it was with a person who practices natural family planning and the amount of abstaining there is when you're holding off on children, especially when you have two kids 14 months apart in age, and you just have to say, I need a break. I need a break right now. I am mentally exhausted. I am physically exhausted. It can wear and tear on you. But it's the right thing to do, by the way. It's the right thing to do, and I agreed with it. I agreed with the church wholeheartedly. It is the pillar and foundation of truth. I will follow the teachings, but that doesn't mean it's easy to follow them. That's the cross that has to be bared. But if you follow that, if you take up that cross, it's what will bring joy to your life. That's what brings the joy, not just turning to comfort and going with some type of drug to make yourself temporarily feel better. Anyway, the story goes, the story that I brought to them, I had had a huge fight with my wife a day or two beforehand. I like stopping at churches when I'm out on my route. I travel all around the state of Connecticut for my job. And when I get a break, I like stopping at a church just so that it's quiet. I like going in, praying a rosary, or just walking around or sitting in the quiet. And I like picking up prayer cards sometimes, little laminated prayer cards. Different churches have different handouts and cards and stuff that they give out. And I picked up some laminated prayer cards and I brought them home. And right when I got home, I sat down and I was showing my kids the prayer cards with the saints on them and stuff, so that was really nice. So I was sitting with them for a little while, showing them everything, and then I got up and I said, oh, we need to go grocery shopping. I said this to my wife. We need to go grocery shopping, and I don't know how much we have in the bank account. I just need to check that first before we hit some groceries. So I go onto the computer, and I'm logging in on the computer to check the bank account. My wife comes into the room and says to me, see, the first thing you do when you get home is go straight to the computer. So I started arguing with her, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Didn't I just sit down with my kids for 20 minutes and just show them these saint cards that I got at this church? She says, nope, it's just and she said to me, it's just an observation that you're on the computer, like right when you get home. So I was telling her, I want you to apologize to me because there's no reason for you to be talking to me that way. And that's totally not true, because I was really, at the time, I was like addicted to Facebook, going onto it constantly, and I was really, really trying hard to stay off of Facebook at the time and off of the computer at the time, and I literally was just going on to check the bank account. So it just developed, it just blew up into this thing it didn't need to blow up into, and I literally just, I needed to get out of the house. I was just getting so angry, and she didn't want me to go, and she's saying, well, what about dinner? It's almost ready. So I literally just picked up a plate, and I literally smashed it against the counter, and I left. And I actually happened to go down the street to our church, and I just sat in there for an hour just sobbing because I just didn't know what to do. I was so exhausted, low on sleep, trying to be perfect with everything, trying to be a perfect husband, trying to be a perfect father, trying to be a perfect employee, and nothing was working out for me. It was just too exhausting, and I had nobody to talk to about it, especially when you're abstaining. If you're a guy and you're abstaining this amount, and it's such an obscure thing to do, because when you talk natural family planning in the real world, people look at you like you've got 3 heads. There's no one to talk to about it. There's nobody. And I was getting very frustrated with that. That was part of my anger. And I brought that to the men's group that day. And I just let it all out. There was a man I had never seen before. And he had just returned to the faith after many, many years away. And he was sitting across from me that morning. And his name was John. And then when it got to his turn after I had spoken, because everyone says to you, no, we're going to pray for you. We remember how hard it is having young children. And, just talk to your wife. Maybe they're giving you all the advice that you need to have to be a better father and a better husband, giving the wisdom. And the guy sitting across from me I had never seen before. And he says to me, what was your name again? Adam, right? And I said, yes. He goes, well, Adam, I'm John, and I just want to tell you this. On Monday evening, I blew it with my wife, too. So immediately I looked up at him, and there's just this connection. We made eye contact. There was just a big connection between the two of us. And that was 2.5 years ago. And that man is one of my best friends right now, because we connected that morning, because we had a men's group. We were so like-minded, going through a lot of the same things. We shared our stories with each other. He's the only person I've ever sat down with and talked about the darkest times of my life with. That's how comfortable I had gotten with him, and he's somebody that I can trust, and he is somebody that I love, and I would die for him. This is the importance of having a men's and a women's group. Go to your parish priest, it is worth it. Tell them that you want to start one. Ask a priest if a parish hall is available. I mean, it's an offshoot, it's an unofficial thing. You're off-site a lot of the time. We go to the diner. We don't always go to the parish hall or anything like that. And just ask if it's approved. Just people who have to be part of your church, they have to be the same sex that you are. It needs to be a men's group, it needs to be a women's group. Because we need to be able to talk to people who are like-minded. Men and women are built differently in their brain. Their brains are built different. And women need to be able to talk about husbands and advice that they need to be better wives, and husbands need to ask for advice on how to be better husbands, and it's just a great way to talk and have camaraderie with one another. So that's why I'm saying, through our men's group. If we didn't have a men's group, I wouldn't have a godson, and I wouldn't have a very, very close friend that I'm able to share very deep things with. And they're all people that we have learned off of one another theologically. And one more story that I have, just this past week at a men's group. We had a picnic, because it's summertime here at this time that I'm making this video. And he was saying that his sister was sick and going into the hospital, and it looks like she's at the end of her life. Now, a few months back, you'll see my videos on here, I made a novena of the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. And I sent it out to about 8 people in our men's group, and they did the novena with me. I just sent them the link to my video and said, pray with me every day. I'll send you an email or a text message with my video of the Chaplet of Divine Mercy on it, and you're just going to do the novena with me, and then go to confession beforehand, and we will meet out on Divine Mercy Sunday, and we'll have a mercy meal in celebration. And about 8 of us from the men's group did that. So the man who said that his sister was sick, he said, hey, yeah, I prayed at Chapel of Divine Mercy, and I looked up one of your YouTube videos on the Chapel of Divine Mercy, and I prayed it with you that night, and I prayed it for my sister. That's some strong stuff. That is how you see how God works through people and how we need one another. God uses people. He uses people. That's what we're here for, to love one another and to support one another. So this is the importance of having a men's or women's group. If you do not have one at your church, start one up. My wife started the women's group at our church. If she can do it, anybody can do it. So God bless you all. Let's end with a glory be. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. God bless you all. Have a good night.